Our reading this morning is from the very, very end of the book of Matthew. This is how that story concludes. Then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. And when they saw him, they bowed before him, but some doubted. Then Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age." In 2 weeks, as Jay just talked about, there will be an installation service or services at 9 and 11 here, and then after that, I am going to walk out the door. I'm going to go do some Father's Day stuff, and then I am not going to come back for 12 weeks. I am going to be absent for 12 weeks. I have been given a sabbatical. Wow. A time of rest and renewal, which is an extraordinary gift to receive. And I am so grateful to you all, to this congregation, for allowing this to happen. I wish that all workplaces gave periodic gifts of time to rest and regenerate, yeah? Yes. It is, when I first found out that I had received a sabbatical, I felt guilty. I got over it, but I felt bad for a little while because nobody gets sabbaticals, and everybody should. We all deserve moments of pause, of absence from different parts of our lives. And one of the first questions that is often asked of me, and maybe what is running through your own heads right now, is, where are you going? With a working spouse and a child with camps and friends, much of my time will be at home or nearby. There are, of course, some trips being planned, but I will mostly be around town. So for me, it is not so much where I'm going, but where I'm not going. I'm not going to go to work. Absent for a few weeks, months of my life will be my workplace. And as wonderful as a place as this is, and as lovely as you all are, I am very excited to be absent physically, emotionally, and intellectually. I will see you again in September. This time of sabbatical has opened in me a curiosity about what can show up in absence. What is present in absence? Absence is not emptiness. Absence is not nothing. Absence can be an opportunity, but for what, we don't always know. While I do have some plans for this sabbatical, I still don't know what it will be like to not work. I don't know what it will be like to have this giant, structured part of my life removed. Helpful people have given me advice on taking sabbatical, and a consistent theme has been the possibility that some anxiety may emerge when the comings and goings of my life are not governed by the clock and schedule of this workplace. So I don't know what will fill my days, but I do know that it will not be nothing. What will be present in this absence? Despite our perception, the great expanse of space is not empty. All the things that we can observe and that we could touch if we were able to get close enough, all of that is only 5% of the universe. The other 95% is not empty. It is not absent anything, but it is full of what we don't yet understand. About 67% of the universe is theorized to be dark energy. Not bad energy, just dark energy, which according to NASA, there is, quote, more unknown than there is known. And the same goes for dark matter, which is the other 27% of the equation. So in the universe, there is something very present, even in the perceived absence, even if we are not yet able to articulate what it is. So when have you, in your own lives, found yourself with something absent? Something has gone away, and in its place is something unknown, something you cannot articulate. What is present in absence? Closer to home in human art making and storytelling, there is another way to think about what is present in absence. The great British theater maker and thinker, Peter Brook, who is one of my artistic heroes, wrote a book called The Empty Space. And in it, he says, a stage space has two rules. 1, anything can happen. 2, something must happen. Absence is full of the presence of potential. So when have you experienced an absence in your life? When you have you been aware of the possibilities that are present? It could be anything. Bitterness to relief, anger to sadness, love to resentment, or some unexpected combination. What is present in absence? Absence is never nothing. It just may not be what we expect. Like theories about our universe, absence may be perceived but not real. What we perceive as absence is just full of what we don't yet understand. Or maybe it's like an empty stage. Absence can be full of the potential of something, of anything. A few years ago, when our 14-year-old dog died, for months I described the experience afterwards as we were constantly tripping over her absence. And I feel the same way now after the death of our very close friend Yolanda, who died in March. Their absence is tangible. And there might be something familiar in this for those who live lives after the death of loved ones. That absence has weight. Their absence may hold as much of our attention as their presence once did. We then can decide what of their life remains present and what might go with them. We are able to hold the space to let that happen. And absences don't only come through death, as we all know. We carry, all of us, the absences of people all the time in other ways, individually and communally. I am feeling this acutely right now as 2 close Plymouth colleagues have left in the past 2 weeks. Digital ministry specialist Chris Bonhoff began working with us on the first Sunday when we shut down of the pandemic, helping us to transition to a pre-recorded worship model, and then later worked with production manager Cody Bordeaux to build our live broadcast capabilities. And after that, his focus was on many other types of video work, and he initiated and hosted our Meaning podcast. As a student in seminary, Chris is doing a unit of chaplaincy starting this week at a local hospital. And then afterwards, he will be doing an internship for a full year at our sibling community First Congregational near the University of Minnesota. And while I am so excited for him and for his adventures that he's embarking on, his absence will be felt. I've loved working with Chris and find him to be a creative, bold, and thoughtful partner in our work together. And for those of you who might have known him here, you will also likely recognize this absence in our community. What will become present in his absence? Hannah Campbell Gustafson, Plymouth's excellent outreach coordinator since 2019, has also departed our staff. This time, she's going to be the executive director of Mental Health Connect. I knew Hannah at the University of Chicago, but we began working closely here in January when the clergy rearranged our portfolios. For the past 4 years, Hannah has supported our board of outreach and shepherded Plymouth's work with external partners and all of our internal programming around outreach. And while I am excited for her and eager for her adventures, her absence will also be felt. I've loved working with Hannah and found her to be deeply caring, curious, and an expansive thinker. And for those of you who knew her, you will likely recognize this absence in our community. What will become present in her absence? And maybe nowhere in our culture is the question of presence in absence more alive than in the story of Jesus. And this particular passage from the end of Matthew especially so. This passage, often called the Great Commission, has been used to call people to the work of following Jesus for millennia. But it holds this question especially and explicitly in this last line. Here the author of Matthew has Jesus saying, "And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age." But he wasn't. Jesus was absent. He had died and gone away. He was absent in all of the ways that we humans typically define absence. And yet, for 2,000 years, that absence has been filled with something, with many things, all to fill that huge and abiding absence. We have fought over what to fill that absence with, and some of it has been love-filled and beautiful. But often we have filled that absence with the desires of the power-hungry and the greedy, of the violent and the callous. Sometimes we have filled that absence with love, often with death. What is present in absence is not maybe accidental. We cultivate our responses throughout our lives. And I wonder if our habit is towards resentment, then will our absences be filled with bitterness? I wonder if our habit is towards loving kindness, then will our absences be filled with more compassion? What becomes present in absence is never fully anticipated, but the ways that we practice our life may begin to indicate the contours of what can become present. This is one of the ways in which how we practice our lives will serve us in the unexpected times. We cannot avoid absences. Sometimes they are chosen, and sometimes they happen to us. Loss is inevitable, and absence is a part of living a human life. But what we do with our absences is important. Absences can be traps, with us trying to fill in that missing piece with a flimsy replacement. Absences can also be sources of anxiety as we attempt to stop them from ever happening. And absences can be sources of rebirth if we allow them to be. We might not like the absence, but we can help decide what becomes present. So how do you approach absences in your life? Do you try to avoid them at all costs? Do they inspire fear or anxiety? Have you been able to find new and unexpected opportunities when something or someone went away? We cannot control absences, but what we allow to become present in any absence is our responsibility. What I allow to be present in my sabbatical absence is in many ways my doing. What this community allows to be present in the absence of Chris and Hannah and others is our responsibility. How do we individually and communally decide to be present in the absence of Jesus? That is our responsibility. So who do we want to be, friends? In the many individual and collective absences that we all carry, what do we want to be present? How do we want to be present in the absence? Change, loss, and absence are inevitable, but what can become present? Do we fall on our habits of resentment and bitterness, of disunity and death? Or do we make present loving kindness and compassion, forgiveness and life? Absences are everywhere, for each of us and all of us. And we have some say in what is present. May we do so together. May we support one another. May it be so.